country. And for the first time, there's going to be legislative initiatives that represent the community's needs, and also they'll be leading for other communities, which is fantastic, and I'm very excited about it. Before I start off, I wanted to say that we cannot do this work without community members showing up, and we cannot do this work without legislators who are passionate, who are leaders, and who are motivated and inspired to have an inclusive state. And when you are down in Springfield, you'll see when we knock on these doors and we talk about issues, there's some legislators that open the door, and there's some legislators that are too busy, and there's some legislators that don't know which bills that they're sponsoring, and then there's other legislators who are opening the door and saying, okay, talk to me. What do you need? Let's think about this. And so when we started this process, there's a few bills that we're going to introduce today to you, but there was one legislator that we knocked on the door of, and we said, listen, this is something that is pressing to our community. We want to talk to you about working together. And Representative Will Guzzardi was gracious and showed his leadership and obviously open to the process. So we're excited. So we're joined today with Representative Will Guzzardi from the 39th District, House Representative, and we're excited to have you here, Mr. Guzzardi, and also you are the chair of the Progressive Caucus. So now I will give the floor to you.
Great, thank you so much, Mariya. It's so wonderful to be here with you all this afternoon. I really appreciate the invitation, and like you said, I appreciate that you guys came to me and invited me to join you in the work that you're doing in legislative advocacy in Springfield. So very briefly about me, I've been in the state legislature. This is my 6th year. So I was elected in 2014 and started in 2015. And have tried during the course of the 6 years that I've been in Springfield to focus on policy changes that will make our state more just, more fair, and more inclusive, and to make sure that communities that have been historically underrepresented in our government and in our in the halls of power have voice and have agency in the legislative process. And that happens, in 2 ways. Part of it is the work that we do in community, having town halls and bringing people into the legislative process within the borders of my district. But the other part of that is sort of policy making, right? How do we bring communities into the process of changing the state's laws and policies to make those laws and policies more informed by the real experiences of those communities and to serve those communities in a more fair and just way. So I am very grateful for the opportunity to partner with the Illinois Muslim Civic Coalition. And I think that the Muslim community's voice has for too long sort of been left out of the legislative process. And that's, it's true of many underrepresented communities. And the only way that ever changes is when communities join together and create sort of strategic and focused efforts to get their community's needs on the broader agenda. Unfortunately, the legislative process is still very much dominated by communities that are not always as responsive to the needs of the rest of us, right? And so the way that you all have come together brought leaders from throughout the Muslim community in the state of Illinois together to think about what are the issues that are addressing our community and how can we influence folks like Will to be responsive to our needs and to go advocate for them. It's been very impressive. And so I congratulate you on the great work that you all have done. And I'm excited to be a partner for you in lifting up the needs of the Muslim community in particular, as well as the ways that those needs intersect with other underrepresented communities, and to make sure that we're building alliances where many communities can come together and advocate for legislative change. And just as a brief aside, before I get into the bill that we're going to talk about today, I think that in this moment that we're in America right now, I think the Muslim community has an important voice to add, right? As a community has faced historic discrimination from law enforcement and has been the target of violence from other members of the community and also from the police, right? Like, I think that the Muslim community has a really important voice to stand up and call for better practices in this area, you know, and I've seen across the country that Muslim leaders have joined together with Black and Latinx leaders and leaders from all kinds of communities to demand a more fair and more decent system of justice and safety that really makes everybody feel safe, right? Like, I think for folks like me, it's easy to walk around the world and see the police and feel safer. I think often for Muslim folks, for people of color in this country, the experience has not been that way. And so when we think about safety, I think you all have a really important voice to bring into that conversation on what does real safety look like. Okay, now very briefly, I want to talk about House Bill 5752, which is the bill that we've worked on together. I want to again thank you guys for bringing this issue to me, because it wasn't one that I was aware of. It hadn't happened in my community. It hadn't been an issue in my community, but I know that in some of the communities where you work, you've found that student athletes, especially female student athletes, have not always been given permission by the local, you know, school boards and governing bodies to wear the garments that they feel comfortable in while they're performing their athletic activities. And so you all drafted this very smart piece of legislation that would require the school districts across Illinois to allow athletes to wear modest garments while they participate in school sports. We had a great discussion about it in the spring and introduced this bill, and we're really looking forward to working on it together during the spring legislative session until that was, of course, abruptly canceled. But I feel really optimistic about our ability to come together and get this thing passed when the legislature comes back together. So yeah, I'm excited to work with you on this bill, and excited, of course, to support the whole legislative agenda that you guys are working on. Thank you so much for being such great partners.
Thank you, Representative Guzzardi. Thank you so much. Before you go, and thank you for your words, I want to ask you, for the audience, there are individuals that have gone down to Springfield and lobbied. There are individuals that are just learning about the legislative process. There are some people that are, you know, demoralized when it comes to the legislative process, as well as many communities, people who wear hijab, people who don't wear hijab. But this is not unique. This is not a unique experience to many communities, and you are representing a district that has a diverse community, that many of these issues are very much the same. So my question is for you, for the audience, before you leave: what drives you and motivates you, despite seeing what we see on TV, on the news, and cases again and again, recently police brutality, and so many other issues that we all as a community have to work together to build on? What drives you to keep moving forward?
It's a great question. And I know how frustrating it can be, and the pace of change can feel like way too slow for the scale of the problems that we're facing. I know. And I feel that frustration going down to Springfield and trying to accomplish change there, feeling like my colleagues don't get the urgency of so many of these issues. But, you know, I think the thing that keeps me going is that my sense of the way that change works is that it feels totally impossible right up until this moment where all of a sudden it feels like there's nothing, it couldn't go any other way. Like, I remember when I first started in Springfield, I was working on trying to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And in 2015, we tried to pass a bill to raise the minimum wage to $10 an hour, and there weren't enough votes for it then. And this fight for 15 idea, I think, seemed totally crazy, and these people were outsiders and radicals, and why are the McDonald's workers going on strike for $15 an hour? And the sort of relentlessness and the persistence and the unwillingness to waver from the values built this national movement. And as more and more stories would come out around the country of how appalling these low wages were and how difficult these circumstances were, it sort of changed the consciousness very, very slowly, and then very, very quickly. You know, it was a long, slow build. And then all of a sudden we were in this moment where $15 an hour minimum wage was like the default position for every Democrat in Illinois and for most Democrats around the country. And I think that's how change works on so many issues, right? On whether it's going to be on changing the way we do policing or, other structural issues that we're working on together, I think it's going to feel really hard and the pace is going to be really slow. And then if we stay with it and if we keep up the fight, I think that we'll reach a moment where there's a tipping point and where the sort of societal perception of our issues changes. And then all of a sudden we'll be poised to really win some important victories.
No, thank you for that. And we're so knee deep in that. We're so knee deep getting to that tipping point. No, you said it so perfectly. Thank you so much. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your vision. And thank you for being an ally. And all of us will see you in Springfield.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Thank you guys so much.
All right. Thank you. All right. So that was very, very powerful. And I think it's very powerful to keep having these conversations and really putting a face behind what makes all of these things move. Before I start off talking about how this process began, as far as us creating a process to create a legislative agenda, what we want to make sure is to remind all of you to make sure you fill out the census. If you haven't done it, fill out your census form. It's very easy, and we'll have some information connected to this link when this webinar is shared in different places. Anam, could you please take me to the flow chart, please? All right, so here we see the flow chart. So this is what we've broken down to help the community understand, all of us understand, how we built the legislative agenda. So we started this process in August, and we started having conversations, just conversations with everybody in the community, because we wanted to make sure that we were not assuming that we knew what the issues were. So we had listening sessions, we talked to different types of organizations, social service, advocacy groups, different types of areas that we wanted to make sure we hit, women's groups as well, refugee organizations, and we identified the main issues. After we did that, we said, okay, let's think about how we can solve these problems. The biggest thing that is really, really moving the needle in any legislative process is that you do your homework. So we did our homework, and we did not rely on other parties to do the homework for us. So we identified what the issues were, and then we mapped out a legislative response. And I will tell you, it's as easy as, how can we solve this problem? And then we came up with strategies to solve these problems. Then we actually introduced the legislative strategy, and we came up with ideas of, okay, who can be our allies? What kind of steps do we need to take? We need to draft a bill. We need to talk to the communities that are also impacted by this. And then we need to start talking to legislators. So that's what we did. We developed a strategy, and then we found key partners and allies, and then we found legislative sponsors, which has brought us to this point where we have 4 bills, alhamdulillah, introduced into the Illinois General Assembly. Now can we go on to the next slide, please? All right, I'm not going to read all of these out. These actually will be available on our website if it's not already, but I just want you to scroll through it, and I'm really quick. That's right. So what you'll see is that we have a huge legislative agenda for the federal, state, and county level, and we have different issues, and we have different examples of why this is an issue at all. And so this is a very wide legislative agenda as a coalition that we've come up with, and all of these issues have different strategies and different responses that we are executing or in the process of executing. Next slide, please. All right, so anyone who's gone to public school in the United States, I think, has seen the video, How a Bill Becomes a Law, where there's like a cartoon and then like the bill rolls up and dances around. I'm not going to do that for you, and I'm not going to have you sit through that cartoon, but I'm going to tell you very quickly of how this stuff works. If you see the flow chart, very simple. A bill is drafted. Guess what? We already did it, and we've got it introduced. So now we refer it to the House committee. And so right now it's in committee. Wherever it was introduced, it's in a specific committee right now, right? Then we have a committee vote. A hearing happens that basically talks about why this bill is important. Then there's a second reading that can include the process of amendments, and there's a third reading, and there's a vote. And the same process goes in the Senate. And so what you have is that the Senate and the House bill move together, and then it goes down to the governor's desk to be signed into law. Or if he vetoes it, there's a veto session where we have an opportunity to challenge the veto as well. So this is basically the process. You don't have to be an expert to this, but definitely I want every individual to feel comfortable about the process and know that this is your process. This belongs to you and we should be using it to impact our communities. All right, next slide, please. All right, let's get into our first bill. So our first bill is HB 5752, the Modest Uniform Bill. As you can tell with the images, that this is about female athletes. Representative Will Guzzardi gave us a little bit of an idea. And the description is that it requires certain educational institutions to allow student athletes to modify their athletic uniform for the purpose of modesty that is in accordance with their religion. But I want to make very clear, this was specifically because we got so many reports, not even in Illinois, but around the country, that there were Muslim athletes that were not able to modify their uniform without penalty in high school and middle school. And if you remember, there was a huge issue within the whole field of female basketball. In fact, there were individuals that we know very well that were very successful that were not allowed to play. And then we had a movement where Nike released a Nike hijab, and then there were different associations that started stating that it was okay, professionally it was okay. So we wanted to bring this down to the school level, but I want to state to you very clearly that we have allies within this argument, not just for the Muslim community, but within this argument, we have individuals from the Catholic community, from the Jewish community, and various communities of just moms and parents that do not like the way a lot of the pressure is being put on what uniforms look like for young girls who play sports. And they actually felt like they wanted the same for their girls. So this is a bill that on its face looks like it's only for the Muslim community, but because of what it does and how it helps people and how it helps young girls to whether they want to wear leggings or they want to wear longer sleeves, whatever the comfort level is, it makes this possible for them. So the question is why numerous cases of Muslim female athletes were being penalized. However, this is a broader issue. So that's HB 5752. Next slide, please. All right, SB 2361. So if you see the image here, the image right now is of a young girl being bullied. This is a very powerful image, and I want to say for people and parents who have had kids in this situation, we understood that this was a very real issue, not just for Muslims, but for so many different communities. In fact, I would tell people that I received calls from parents, and one was from a Jewish mom who stated that her daughter was constantly told that students around her were saying that they wish there was another Holocaust that they could make use of. So these are many issues within DuPage County. If you remember, there was actually an incident where there was a Craigslist ad in which an African-American child was put up with his picture saying person for sale, right? So these types of bullying issues are happening on the ground. They happen all the time. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to make sure that the school code had a process for bullying. So there's a bullying statute that already exists. And what this does is that it mandates by the state that if you have a bullying issue based on race, religion, ethnicity, sexual orientation, any of those categories, according to the Illinois Human Rights Act, then you are mandated to have mediation. What that means is that we want the child that was a victim and the child that was the offender to talk this through, not just have detention and suspension and everybody kind of goes their own ways, but these kids need to live in the real world. They need to interact with each other, and they need to use this process as an education means for them for a better inclusive society. And more importantly, we want to intervene at a younger age so these children do not become adults who perpetrate hate crimes. And most importantly, most importantly, for the victims of these cases, they become empowered to know how to navigate their situations. So right now we have a restorative justice process that exists where, you know, you can talk it out and there is mediation, but it's not happening on the ground. And a lot of schools are having difficulty of how to use this as an education process. And we felt that these types of bullying cases were so important that we wanted to have impact and change minds and hearts and not just laws. And that's what this law does through this process. The senator sponsoring this bill is Senator Jackie Collins. And you'll have all of that information of how to contact them at the end of this webinar. All right, next one. All right, this is SB 2363, the Muslim Curriculum Bill. So as you know, many school districts have a large percentage of Muslim students. How we came across this bill is because we were told by many parents, and based on our research, that the way 9/11 was being taught and the history of Muslims, which was absent in education, was being taught, was creating a psychological damage to these Muslim students. In fact, the way we always approach this and the way we talk to legislators about this is we said, hey, listen, there are teachers teaching information about Muslims that are inaccurate, about Islamic history that is inaccurate. There's not enough resources and information there that you guys are using. There's no body that basically says this is okay and this is not okay, and everyone is kind of doing their own thing, which includes not only Islamic history, but 9/11. And in fact, we always state that if the KKK doesn't represent Christianity, burning crosses, then it has to be made very clear to kids that 9/11 does not represent Islam. Educated people are supposed to know this. Why are we not educating our students? And so we came up with a Muslim curriculum bill in which we will be amending the school code, in which there will be a process for our students to learn about the contributions of Muslim Americans in the country and Islamic history. And there will be a resource with the ISBA, Illinois State Board of Education, and different county boards on the ground that will be helping to make this possible. The senator sponsoring this bill is Senator Laura Ellman from DuPage County. She was very, very excited about it, and also thought that this type of inclusive education was so necessary to build relationships and educate a multi-diverse ethnic religious community that we all live in. All right, next bill. All right, so this one, oath of office. Now, this is very interesting. As you know, there is a lot of rhetoric that takes place when it comes election season. We have candidates saying a lot of things about communities, making political statements, pot shots. We have elected officials also saying things. Of course, the most famous one that gets repeated again and again is when Donald Trump was running for president, and he said a total shutdown and ban of Muslims in the United States. That was the lead up to policy. And then there was also a statement said that I think Islam hates us. That was said on national television, and that there's something in the Quran that makes Islam hates us. Those kinds of statements are very, very powerful that people really latch onto. And in fact, not only do they latch onto, but they have there's actually a perpetuation of hate crimes that are connected to that kind of rhetoric. So we consider that hate rhetoric. We consider that hate rhetoric against any community. And if you all remember a few months ago, about 6 months ago, there was also a flyer released that stated that there were 4 individuals in Congress and they were called the Jihad Squad, right? So actually taking a terminology from Islam and using it in this way as political rhetoric. So how do we stop elected officials from using this type of political rhetoric that can cause major damage and cause physical harm to individuals that really get motivated by this type of talk? And I think the only thing that everyone keeps butting their heads against when we try to resolve this issue is the First Amendment. We value the First Amendment. We never want to limit freedom of speech. We want everyone to be able to say what they need to say. And we want to make sure that voters and elected officials, when it comes to speaking the truth, are not silenced. So how do we strike that balance? The way we strike this balance is that we introduce an amendment to the oath of office. So when an elected official now takes an oath of office, not only do they say we follow the Illinois Constitution and we hold up the Illinois Constitution, but it also states as an amendment that we respect with our words and our actions a great diversity of this great state of Illinois. So if you have an individual taking pot shots for cheap, campaign gains or policy gains, and they're just throwing words around and saying that they're immune, they're disrespecting the diversity of their state. And in addition, they're disrespecting the oath of office. So those are the 4 bills. So I've gone through detail on 4 of them. The next one, please. Next slide. So now that we know these 4 bills and we've walked them through, and this was the purpose of this webinar, we didn't want to make it too dry, but we wanted to really give you all the information that you needed so we can feel that it's yours and you can feel that it's yours. I want to show you this website. This website that you're seeing is the Illinois General Assembly. You can simply Google this, right? The Illinois General Assembly, and it'll take you to this screen. So if you can look at this search icon right here, you can search any bill you'd like to search with a bill number, or you can go down to a keyword, right? And so when this happens, you'll be able to pull up certain bills and certain resolutions that are out there. What you'll see is when you click on this and you actually search something, you will see the full text also. You'll see the full text and a description of the bill. Are you able to do that, Anam? If you were able to do put one in for the audience?
Can't do that live though.
Okay, that's fine. So we can't do that live. We tried to be like super cool. Okay, we can't do everything, but go ahead and search those bills. Go ahead and read them. The full text are there. There's a description. You'll see who's sponsored it. You'll see where it's sitting, in what committee, and what's coming next. I also want all of you to be very comfortable with this website so you can see who your representative are, what committee they sit on, what the schedule is, what the sessions are, and you can even see transcripts and schedule. So this website is really, 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 really great. All right, next slide. All right, so now we're going to shift a little bit. That was all of the good, dense bill work we wanted to talk to you about. Anam, if you could do the audience a favor and introduce yourself, and then introduce our next speakers, please.
Thank you. Hi, salam, my name is Anam. I'm the new Advocacy and Policy Affairs Fellow working with Mariya. I'm going to hand over the floor to Aliya, who's part of the Voter Census Initiative at Illinois Muslim Civic Coalition. Aliya?
Hey, assalamu alaikum, everybody. My name is Aliya Husain, and I am the Director of Voter Engagement at the Illinois Muslim Civic Coalition.
Aliya, I'm sorry, your video is off.
Hold on one second. Sorry.
You're fine.
All right. Is that better?
Yes.
You on? Okay, perfect. So, assalamu alaikum. My name is Aliya. I am the Director of Voter Engagement for the Illinois Muslim Civic Coalition. And this year is probably the most critical election year of our lifetimes. And what we want to make sure at the coalition is that everyone and anyone has the capability to vote, and nothing should hinder you from actually participating in the process. The current climate right now with COVID-19, a lot of people have reservations about actually going to the polls, and we recognize that and we respect that. So one of the initiatives that has taken flight is this Vote by Mail in Illinois 2020. So we wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that any registered voter in the state of Illinois can apply to vote by mail. Vote by mail is basically the process by which somebody who's registered to vote typically receives and returns a ballot via mail. Once the ballot's received and filled out, it's just a matter of returning it to the election division in an envelope that's stamped and signed by the voter, or you could even return it in person as long as you are the actual voter that's handing it in. So the key date to remember right now is that on August 5th, these applications will be open, and we can then start applying to receive these vote by mail ballots. And another key date to remember is that on October 29th, all of the vote by mail ballots must be postmarked by that date. So for anybody who is interested in availing this option, Please keep your eyes and ears open. August 5th, you will be able to file that application to vote by mail, and you should receive a ballot that you will be able to fill out and return. And when you do return your ballot, it should be postmarked no later than October 29th, 2020. Anam, can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so there's several options. You can apply by the mailed application. There is a bill that passed in the House and the Senate of Illinois, where if you have participated in any of the past 3 elections, you will automatically receive a vote by mail ballot. I believe we're still waiting on Pritzker to sign that. Mariya, you're our expert. Maybe you can speak to that. But the intention is that everyone who has voted within the past 3 elections will receive a vote by mail ballot. So you have the option of doing that as long as you receive it. The other options are you can apply online. We are sharing the election division links because you're going to need that election division link. You can absolutely fill out the application. They'll send you a vote by mail ballot. You can apply in person at your election division. So again, if you do the lookup, you'll be able to find out where you actually have to go and apply in person. And of course, you can apply via phone. And again, election division lookup is available. You can look it up and you can get the phone number, and then they can send you a ballot as well. So several options. Please don't think we're limited by any stretch. You can apply via mail, you can apply online, you can apply in person, and you can apply by phone, all to get your ballot. Next slide, please. Okay, to return your vote by mail, ballot by mail, just add postage, sign it, fill it out, and drop it in the mail. Easy as that. It's super simple. Don't let it threaten you. It's, sometimes people think, oh, this is a new process. I'm not sure if I'm going to do this right. You're absolutely going to do it right, because all you have to do is fill it out, put a stamp on the envelope, and drop it in the mail. The other option you have is returning your ballot in person. So when you know what your election division address is, just go to the polling station or your election division and hand it in. The only thing we do have to bear in mind is that if you're not the voter and you're dropping off the ballot, then you need a signed affidavit of delivery on the flap of the envelope. And cases that could be applied for are cases of elderly who are sick, who want to vote, but they can't get to the actual election division. Then if you are bringing in their vote, please make sure that you have the signed affidavit on the flap of the envelope. So it's a great option. I really hope everyone takes advantage of it. We obviously are anticipating ups and downs with COVID-19 until there's a vaccine in place and everyone has easy access to it. So for those people that just may be a slight bit nervous, there's no reason for you to be scared in terms of voting by mail. So it's a wonderful option available to us. You can also come to our website, illinoismuslims.org, and we will be posting all relevant information on that website that you can turn to at any point to get the most up-to-date information on voting by mail. So that's it. Thank you, everybody.
All right, I'm not on mute. Thank you, Aliya. Thank you so much. Before we open it up for anyone who has questions, and we can actually go through the chat, I see that there's some questions there and some comments as well that I would like Anam to share. Very, very important. We do not want any of the legislators forgetting about our bills. They have many, many bills that they have, right? And we want to make sure that we are through the process with them step by step, so they know that the community is supportive and that the community is invested. COVID has kind of thrown a curveball. So as a community, we are always ahead of the game, right? This is what we do. We kind of think out of the box. So we always are going to apply that strategy. And so right now, when everybody is kind of sitting back in the summer, I want you guys all of you to have a call to action for this. What I want you to do is, if you've heard us on this webinar, we want you to thank the legislators that have sponsored the bills. Now, all of the information that we've shared on this webinar will include in links, so you'll be able to see it. We'll also include it on the website as a call to action, and you'll also get an email. But if you are sharing the moment with us today, I feel that we have given enough information for all of you to feel that we are partners in this. I definitely want to see you guys as partners, and we want you to write an email to each of these legislators saying thank you for sponsoring the legislation. And we have a template, right, Anam? All right, very, very simple, very simple. Dear legislator's name, so dear Representative Will Guzzardi, thank you for sponsoring bill number XXX, whichever bill that you're speaking about. We, the Muslim community, now it could be the Muslim community, by the way, that Muslim should be capitalized, but we, the Muslim community, or I, Anam, I, Mariya, am excited. I live in this location and we look forward to seeing its passage. You can make it any way you want, but we really, really want you to connect with the legislators and build a relationship with them just on this point. Also, if you ever need to know what the bills are, I will repeat again, after this webinar is finished, we will be sharing this webinar in different places with links to information. We'll also be putting it up on the website. So all of this will not be difficult homework where you have to memorize anything. All right, so that's the call to action. We really, really want us to do this together because trust me, this will be call to action number one. There'll be other ones. And so I'm excited for this easy one, right? We want to think graciously and we want to show gratitude. So that's an easy one to do. Now we're going to open it up for questions or comments. Anam, if you can, oh, and thank you. Anam, if you can put my face on the screen. So I think we need to get rid of this slide and move me into the phase. I don't know if somebody else can do that. All right. Oh, wow, now I look like this. Okay, this is awesome. So now, Anam, do you think you can go through some questions and comments that you find interesting or that you want to share with the rest of the audience?
Everyone so far has just been really thankful for the informational webinar. It looks like, let's see what some of these questions. Here's a question. What actions as the voters do we need to take before election? And will we get updates about the bills and their progress?
Okay, so I can answer. If Aliya is still on this one, I'll have her answer the voting one. But for the bills in progress, absolutely. Absolutely. So as this continues, when the bill moves from one phase to another, there'll be legislative updates via email and on social media. This was the first time that we're introducing the information, and now we're going to travel this journey together. So through the whole process, you will know. And also, if you remember the website link that we showed you and the page, you can always search yourself, right? You're having chai at night and you're watching TV and you're like, I wonder what's happening with that modest bill. Go ahead and do that search. All right, Aliya, would you like to answer a question?
Yes, surely. For those people that are wondering what to do before the elections as voters, we strongly recommend that you check on your voter registration status. So if you have not registered, make sure you do register. And if you are registered, just double check your status and make sure everything is up to date. If you are planning to avail the vote by mail option, wait for August 5th and make sure you apply for your ballot.
And Aliya, you're going to have all this information so they don't have to do the homework of memorizing.
Absolutely.
And make it very easy and accessible.
Super easy and accessible on our website, illinoismuslims.org. So please don't hesitate. And if you are not already on our email listserv, the coalition's email listserv, please don't hesitate to write your name down in the chat box and we will try to add it on the listserv so that you get weekly updates on what needs to be done.
Okay, wonderful. All right, Anam, and you can stay on the screen, Aliya. You may be called on for another question. Okay. Go ahead, Anam.
Yeah, I just want to invite everyone else to put some questions into the chat if they have any questions or comments about what was discussed today. But a few other questions I'm getting or comments is, what's the best way to educate people about these bills?
So the best way to educate these people about these bills is to really understand the bills. So I would really say, since this webinar is recorded, we're going to be placing it in a place on social media and on our website where you'll be able to see it. And that's for our tech team and our communications team to decide. So you can always go back to these slides and have this information so you can kind of, you know, visit what we talked about now. But I would say keep it very, very simple, right? So have the bill number, include a link for people so they can read the actual language, and then keep it very simple as far as what the description is, and then have the legislators' names on there, because you can always call legislators and say, hey, I heard you sponsor this bill. I have some questions about it. They can answer the questions. What it really, really does is that it opens up this process where the legislator knows that there's an interactive community that's reading and learning. And of course, ANP, Advocacy and Policy, we love questions about bills, right? We like, as Hassan Minhaj says, this nerd legislative civic stuff, we're those nerds. So you want to ask us those questions, we're there, and we'll help you through the process.
Another question is, how can these bills affect our day-to-day lives?
Can you say that again?
How can these bills affect our day-to-day lives?
Oh, okay. So let's walk through. So let's say you have a 12-year-old girl, daughter who really plays basketball or who enjoys basketball, or who's an excellent swimmer and goes to school and wants to participate and try out for a team. And what she does is that she practices and works really hard, and then she shows up to the game, and somehow in front of the audience, the fans and her parents and her whole team, somebody as a referee says, I'm sorry, you can't play. You can't play. And at that point, for that 12-year-old, that girl receives the following message: I am not welcome, I am not equal, my athletic skills don't matter, and that the way I am dressed is going to impact the way that I play. And she's going to carry that for the rest of her life. And so what this bill does, the Modest Uniform Bill, it says, no, your athletic skills matter, you have a right to play, and that you should not be held back. And in fact, within the bill, just so you know, as you'll see the language, there's actual descriptions of what is accommodated and what is possible. So for example, if you have like a hijab that has thorns sticking out, you're not going to be wearing that, right? So this is a common sense bill that's safe for the teen. It has guidelines that have already been accepted nationally by other professional organizations of sports. So it helps a child, a young girl, to play, to be part of the community that she's already contributing to. Now, that girl or that girl has a brother, and both of them go to school on 9/11. When they're in class, they're sitting there and there has to be a class about 9/11. Or they're sitting in class, in history class, and the teacher says, Islam is about terrorism, right? And everyone in the class turns around and looks at these students. Or in history class, Islam is violent. Islam has nothing but murderers in it, right? Everyone turns around and looks at them. And there's just inaccurate information that is perpetuated by years and years of ignorance and lack of resources and lack of acknowledgement that this is wrong. And those types of conversations, those children will carry with them for the rest of their lives. And they come home to you and you're a parent, right? And you have to respond. Third, you are reading the newspaper or you're watching the news with somebody, with your children, and you see a candidate or an elected official say, this is a huge problem. Within our community, there's too many mosques and they're harboring terrorists. And your 12-year-old, your 10-year-old, and your 6-year-old says, Abu, we go to Juma every day. Is he talking about us? That's hateful rhetoric, right? Then you see an individual that is angry and upset and maybe has circumstances that are difficult for them, and they get motivated to buy into this narrative. And guess what? They call your masjid and they say, we're going to attack it at this time at 10 p.m. Please don't think we're not going to do it. These are all real incidents that happen. They happen. They affect you. A lot of times we're protected from it because law enforcement and leaders in the community have moved forward to solve these problems. But these are everyday issues that happen. And there's a fourth example, right? There's a fourth bill I wanted to give an example of the everyday thing. Yeah, those are the three. I think there's another one. I just can't remember. Okay, so it affects your life, right? It affects your life. Yeah.
Thank you. Another question I have, in addition to the emailing the legislators for support for the bill, what else can people do to support the passing of these bills?
Great. And I just remember the bullying one. If you have kids that are bullied, then this affects you. So yeah, what can you do other than talking to legislators is you can actually make use of the fact that all of us are on multiple WhatsApp groups discussing recipes and sports and news and politics. We can change these WhatsApp groups into modes of mobilization, which means that you can, within your WhatsApp groups and your Facebook communities and your dawats and your parties and your dinners and your friend circles, you can talk about these legislative bills and say, listen, these are the 4 bills that are introduced. They're going to be voted on. We're going to be needing all of you to participate. Instead of just talking about nice pleasantries, can I give you an email of a legislator? So when you go home today, can you email them? Can you call them? Can you say that you're interested in the bill? And this is how we become civically engaged. It's not a lot of work. It's just 2 sentences, but we need people to constantly be mobilizing and talking. Otherwise, this stuff doesn't get passed. I will say this, when there is a bill in other communities that have been passed, they do not happen in a vacuum. They happen because community members are alert and awake and they care. And you know that we all care. We all care. We just got to put our hearts into motion.
Thank you. Another question we've got is, are all these bills going to be in the ballot in November with the wording with yes and no?
Okay.
How will they be available?
Sure. So this is a good description. So a lot of, Aliya, if you could state a little bit about when you actually go to vote, there are certain things that you vote on within the ballot, and then I'll explain the distinction.
Okay, so when we vote, obviously there are the elections, but there are also referendums and, you know, different topics that are addressed. And you do have the option to vote yay or nay. And it's really important that we know what our ballots look like prior to walking in. Sometimes that wording can be a little bit confusing. So what we are going to try to do is, as soon as we get a sample ballot, we will do our best to share how the questions will be written. It's far too often that people don't understand the way things are phrased and they go in and vote. So we're going to turn to our expert, Mariya, and we're going to ask her, read this in a way that common Joe can understand it, so that we will be able to share with you on our website what the referendums will be and how you can interpret the questions, so that when you answer them via a yes or a no, they're answered in the way that you would like to answer them, and you're not thrown off by the wording.
Perfect. So to piggyback on Aliya, there will be things that you'll be voting on as referendums on the ballot. These 4 bills will not be on a voting ballot, okay? The only people that are voting on these bills are legislators in the House and legislators in the Senate. And when they vote yay, this will move forward to the governor's desk and the governor will sign this into law. Therefore, our job is to call those legislators and make sure that they vote yay. All right, what's next?
Thank you. A follow-up question on the curriculum bill that we are pushing. Just to clarify, are there efforts in place to change the curriculum about Islam in the schools?
So the way that this has happened in the past is that parents, after their kids come home from school and have an unpleasant experience where they have been taught something inaccurately, is that the parents approach the teacher or the school district or the superintendent and say, look, this was wrong. Is there a way we can fix this? And they have worked together. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The reason why we're moving this into a process of codified law is so across the board, everybody has the opportunity to teach properly about the contributions of Muslim Americans and also learn about Islamic history. But I also want to say something that's very, very important. I hope everybody from the beginning is with me right now. One thing we didn't mention when we talked about Muslim curriculum, we've included a Muhammad Ali Day. Yes, a Muhammad Ali Day, the people's champ, America's champ, who was Muslim, to talk about his struggles, to talk about what he stood for, and this will start the conversation and show a reality of how long and how beautifully Muslims have been contributing to this country.
Thank you. Another question we have is, are there other issues and bills we should start advocating for? Okay,
absolutely. So one thing that we need to understand is that we are a connected community. So as I started earlier, when I did the introduction, is that I have been writing bills for quite a long time, and they were focused on social justice issues that are important statewide. And the most important reason why we show up to these issues is because as Muslims, that is our responsibility, right? Our responsibility is to care for everybody, through our actions to be a mercy to mankind. So when you are advocating for yourselves and you want others to advocate for you, you better be advocating for other people, because that is the job of a Muslim, and that's a job of being a citizen. So what we'll do, there's a lot of different issues that are happening right now within Illinois and within the federal government, including hate crime reporting, including budget requests, including issues in immigration, right? We all saw issues of family separation. So there's so many issues that are at work that we all can roll up our sleeves and do the same thing, call on other people's behalf, call on different communities' behalf, and be an ally. So I'm so glad whoever asked this question, because we will have a list of bills that are relevant to many different communities that we'd love for you to be an ally for as well.
Thank you. It looks like we only have a few minutes left. If anybody wants to have any closing remarks or just some concluding thoughts, I think that's all the questions we have from the audience.
All right, are there any comments? I thought I saw like a comment about a lacrosse player. Did I see a comment about a lacrosse player?
Yes, you did. It was.
Can you read that one out?
Sure. It's from Dilara, and or from Mariam Said, was the captain of her high school team at the lacrosse division. She didn't need accommodation for a headscarf, but she wanted to wear leggings underneath her lacrosse skirt uniform. So everyone should be excited to have this option as accommodation.
Great, great. So she was actually a captain of the lacrosse team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's so many stories like this that kind of, we don't even know of individuals and kids that kind of just suck it up and say lacrosse is not for me, or have the ability to have accommodation. We want to make sure that everybody has that equal opportunity. Any closing remarks from you, Aliya, before I close up?
I am just going to ask everybody to keep their eyes and ears open for our emails and keep checking our website for updates. Again, probably the most critical election of our lifetimes coming up. This time, it's not just a matter of voting, it's a matter of being prepared to vote. We have to keep in mind the circumstances of the times. So God forbid if we are facing a spike or something of COVID-19, that should not deter us from making sure our voices are heard. So please be ready to vote by mail. Please be ready to do whatever you need to do to make sure your voices are actually heard. So I'm excited. We all know we can drive positive change, and just stay woke and stay abreast of what's going on so that you can have your voice heard.
Thank you, Aliya. And I'll just like to close up by saying that there's no form of injustice that happens on its own. We are all interconnected. We're interdependent communities. We are globally connected, and the only way we can bring change is to take on the responsibility, right? We are witnesses. We are actual witnesses. If it's in your news feed, don't hide and say you didn't see it. You saw it. You saw that there's injustice, and now guess what? All eyes are on you. So just remember that we're all connected. We expect you to answer the call. We're answering the call. We're going to do it together, and we're going to make impacts for our community and for everybody that needs us to be a mercy. I see one more comment here from Aliya. Oh, okay. She had a link. So thank you so much for joining us. We're excited. This is just beginning of a conversation where we're taking nerdy legislative civic sense and making it easy for you, where you'll find it exciting and you'll show up with us every time. So thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum. Have a great afternoon. And thank you, Anam, so much for facilitating. It was wonderful. And I appreciate all of you.